All right, guys. So this is one I really wanted to get into because this thing was awesome. From check out the show Rise of Empires, the Ottomans, Vlad Dracula the Impaler versus Mehmed, the Sultan of the Ottomans. On the screen right now, this is Mehmed, Sultan of the Ottomans. This show is awesome. These characters are amazing, but what's also great is their types. What are they? Well, with Mehmed here, Sultan of the Ottomans, you know, I'm not entirely sure at the moment, but I have to say that I'm feeling a little bit of an LIE ENTJ. I know that's a little bit odd because he's quite the warrior, and we don't tend to think of him that way. But I have some reasons for that. If not, he could be another ESFP SEE type, and I have some reasons which I'll get into. However, what is really interesting is Vlad Dracula the Impaler is an ESFP. He's an SEE. Who knew? I guess it says something about SEEs, huh? And you're thinking, okay, how the hell is he an SEE? Well, here we go. Let's check it out. Let me show some scenes. That's Vlad. Okay, cool moment. Okay, as you can see, these guys.
Me and Vlad, I will go to Valhalla, and before I kill him, you will see the one thing he values above all else, his beloved capital, Rochdale.
Okay, so that line right there is kind of interesting. It's very significant throughout the entire point of these two characters going at each other. Now, I know some of you might say, well, it's just a show, whatever. Yeah, but it's a historical show with a whole bunch of historians making their case for all of this. So it's got a lot of historical backing. And unless you want to go back and do an entire historical biography on Vlad to disprove that, I'm going to go ahead and side with all of these historians. So, anyway, much of this whole thing is almost a very personal blood feud between two individuals here, Sultan Mehmed and Vlad Dracula. Okay. It's very FI, very SEFI. Okay. I think due to the fact that these people use a lot of force and are fighting all the time left and right, it's pretty fair to say that it's not hard to make an argument that there's a whole lot of SE going around in here, right? What is interesting is just, okay, what particular types are we dealing with? Now, in the case of Vlad, it is constant in there that he has this very personal um, hatred for the Ottomans and Mehmed almost personally, because he sees them as being his oppressors. They are the cause of his pain and his destruction of his family. He really holds it against them. And there's a lot of ways in which he didn't have to. It wasn't personal, but he does. And Vlad has a younger brother who's with him, and his younger brother is in the same situation as Vlad, but he doesn't respond the same way as Vlad does. He doesn't take it personally. He doesn't have this kind of hatred. But for Vlad, it was almost immediate, the kind of hatred that he had that he never got rid of, and it became a personal thing. So, in the case of Mehmed, Mehmed and Vlad kind of grew up together as young boys, fighting together, working together, living together, being educated together, everything pretty much together. The difference being was that Vlad was a political hostage in the court of the Ottomans. So while Mehmed was the future heir of the Sultanate, Vlad was just a political prisoner, a hostage, until a certain time in which he could assume the throne of Wallachia, which is kind of a little kingdom area near Hungary at the time. Vlad is very pissed at this. He takes it poorly. He does not like that his father left him behind, and he's just pissed. And he decides he wants vengeance for the rest of his entire life. That is super SEFI. Even the entire psychological warfare that he's doing, where he is impaling people left and right, it's excessive. It's not even necessary violence at that point. It's just meant for emotional shock value, something that an SE FI individual is probably going to be a little bit more attuned to, wanting to psychologically, emotionally instill fear and chaos and terror in people, just go above and beyond what is practical, what is reasonable, what is just enough to get the job done, which is probably something an ESTP would do. So anyway, let's show a little bit about this so see that I'm not crazy.
Hear me now, Vlad Dracula.
Okay, making cool speeches.
Mehmed is coming for you. There will be no escape.
And then Vlad.
Are only out of fighting, brother Vlad.
Again, a little bit of some trailers, some cuts, whatever.
We'll see what we've been hiding.
See, example of them as boys, so they really know each other. It's very personal. And let's see. Move along. Okay, this is not very helpful, but okay, that's still running. So anyway, it's very personal between these two. Mehmed makes this almost a kind of like a personal crusade that even long after the feud is over, I mean, he spends years dwelling on this kind of thing. It's personal. Now, if you understand the background of a lot of this stuff, Vlad, when he eventually takes over, he is not really that interested in he just wants to take over this kind of kingdom in Wallachia, and he could have just taken the kingdom and just carried on, continue with the political things of the day, lived his life as a good monarch and so on, but he doesn't. He's extremely violent, extremely ruthless, even by medieval standards. He's exceptionally violent. I think it's fair to say that impaling people on stakes is a whole nother level of violence. All right, so he goes to Wallachia. He impales all the nobles there because he doesn't trust them, and he holds a grudge that he thinks they were not very good to his father and his family before him. So he has all those nobles and their family impaled and killed. That sends a message. That's some serious stuff. He then, shortly thereafter, in no small words, declares war on the Ottomans, and the Ottomans at the time are a superpower. It's kind of almost crazy. He goes to war with the Ottomans, knowing full well what the Ottomans will do. He insults them as much as he can, and he really goads them into this war, thinking it's a war worth having. The Ottomans, of course, respond with Mehmed here on the screen, who Mehmed is actually very hesitant about this. Mehmed has mixed feelings because he does have some issues with Vlad, but he grew up with him, and he still thinks that there's some ability to kind of reconcile. And though Vlad has been very disobedient for a long time, Mehmed disregards the advice of some of his council and people, showing a lot of loyalty, a lot of favoritism towards Vlad, despite Vlad's constant what do you want to say, his disobedience, just outright not paying tribute, not doing the things he's supposed to do. To me, it kind of shows that Mehmed here has a certain amount of it's very personal to him, that Vlad is somewhat kind of special to him, and so he's kind of lenient on him. He's more lenient to him than he would have been with others. This is something that's very FI, it's very Gamma Quadra, to be a little hypocritical almost, because you're being extra lenient to people you kind of like, you're kind of personal to you. You know, you're not really doing the thing you normally do. He has a lot of mixed feelings. He's trying very hard to get Vlad to come around, but Vlad will have none of it. Vlad brings on the war by impaling a lot of people, including Ottomans, and at that point, there's just no way Mehmed could ignore that. Eventually, Mehmed brings his army to Wallachia to fight against Vlad and his armies, and the battles break out. At this point, I could see this as an LIE who was a little hesitant to bring war to this. He's thinking about the overall picture. He's not comfortable going to war against Vlad, someone he still has mixed feelings, mixed loyalties about. But now it's got to a point where it's on. So now this is where I could see an ENTJ, LIE, just kind of saying, okay, I've had enough. I tried to do all kinds of things. I tried to see it different ways. I tried to be nice to you, but you've made it this personal and we're taking it to this level and the fight is on. So fight's on. Problems that our good friend Vlad has, typical of many of our ESFPs, is that they don't really uh they're seeking out vengeance. And let's get a picture of Vlad up here because like why not, right? There he is. Let's throw Vlad on here. So Vlad, he does this so well. This show is awesome. So Vlad, he again out of this personal desire that he states over and over again that he just does not want to be a prisoner anymore. He saw his entire time as a political hostage, even though he was taken care of well, even though he was educated, he was trained, he was treated well. Despite all that, he views the whole thing as he was nothing but a hostage and a prisoner, and he will never again accept anyone being above him. He will never bend the knee to anyone. And he's going to make a dramatic point about that by going to war. So he takes his small little country and he goes to war against a superpower over this. Basically stating here at one point towards the end that this was all about vengeance. It's pure and simple. It is vengeance. This is personal. It's on. Super SEFI. From a young age, Vlad was a good fighter. He was very physical. He got all those things very well. He got all the physical stuff well. He was excellent as a tactician, excellent as a warrior, excellent as a commander. But his strategy is just kind of out the window. He kind of said, I'm taking my small country and I'm hoping that I'll get another major power to ally with us to fight against the Ottomans. But he was hoping. He never quite secured that. He never really had that locked in. He didn't really have many allies and friends in this fight. There wasn't much to it. So he stages a big fight, gets into a huge war with a superpower. And you can imagine how well that goes. What he's incredibly known for was he was an excellent tactician. So he fought the Ottomans very, very well. And he instilled terror in them because he just was impaling people. It's psychological warfare that he was so good at. I mean, imagine how much you must hate someone that you want to inflict the horror of impalement on them. And for those of you who don't know what impalement was back then, you basically lubricate a massive large stake that's maybe like 10 feet tall, lubricate as best you can, and then it's rammed up the anus of an individual, and then they are meant to just like ram that stick all the way through them until it protrudes out of some part of their body, and you're meant to miss all of their internal organs so that that person suffers as long as possible while being left to rot in the sun on a stake. That's a whole hell of a lot of hate. That's very emotional stuff. It's real personal to hate people that much. So, point being, great tactician, very common for an SE dominant individual, rushing impulsively into such a fight, into these kinds of things, and wage war, but didn't really secure the strategic component of this, was not very practical, was not very, how well thought through. Mehmed, on the other hand, has thought this through rather well. He has secured and prepared for all kinds of stuff. And towards the end, he also mentions a lot about how we only have so much time in this world to leave our legacy. He's making that comment to Vlad's brother. And he very shrewdly has Vlad's brother around to put him on the throne when this is all over, and thus put a strategic ally, somebody he can trust, back on the throne of Wallachia. Shows good strategic intellect. Worrying about time demonstrates a lot of NI usage going on there, demonstrates this focus on NI, this focus on an achievement. I want to make as much achievement as I can in the time that I have left, right? And during this, he's fairly young still. He's only in his 20s that he's doing all this, yet he's worried about his legacy already. He's already trying to make his impact while he still can. It's a lot of NI, it's a lot of concern for that. So I'm using that as examples why he could be an LIE instead of some other SE Dom type who's fighting this kind of stuff. So, again, some great stuff. Not sure what we've got around here. Probably not in these little videos. But check this show out. This is great. Rise of the Ottomans. It's on Netflix. Fantastic. This thing was amazing. But who knew? Vlad Dracula, SEE. So another reason to beware SEEs, I guess. Okay, especially at night. Keep your eyes on them.